Welcome to the Top 5 Company Killing Issues webinar. During this webinar, you're going to discover some huge problems that stifle growth and cost your company money, as well as explore solutions to begin to repair these issues. These issues all have two things in common. First, every organization experiences these to some degree. Secondly, they can all be resolved through the use of effective communication. Let's start with an overarching premise. Communication drives everything. Nothing happens without the ability to communicate. Companies start when the founders communicate a vision. They grow and prosper when employees communicate effectively to produce a result. Communication is behind every business activity in your company, and the ability to effectively communicate drives business success. When there is open communication, companies make intelligent decisions. They have a clear sense of direction. Deadlines are met, and there is an open and honest environment. When there is a lack of open and honest communication, people drown in uncertainty. In other words, they have no clear goals, expectations, vision, or direction. This leads to working from assumptions. Instead of acting on facts, people form conclusions based on their opinions and judgments, and then act on those. There are execution and deployment failures. There are organizational misalignments where departments are not working cohesively. Finally, there is a lack of innovation and new ideas. Let's start with drowning in uncertainty. This happens when there is a lack of clear information being shared. When information isn't provided, people become uncertain. They fill in the blanks, finding their own direction that may or may not be right, or even worse, they drift aimlessly. Perhaps you found yourself in the same situation when there was a lack of information leading you to act in a way you thought was right, but turned out to be all wrong. How did this make you feel? Uncertainty often accompanies changes such as reorganizations, mergers, realignments, and acquisitions. These changes should result in innovation and growth, but often the opposite happens due to the level of uncertainty. Studies show a direct correlation between successful projects or programs and effective change management, which includes proper handling of uncertainty. A 2002 study conducted by McKinsey & Company, a global management consulting firm, investigated projects in over 40 companies to determine the effect of effective change management on a project's return on investment. Poor change management showed up as a lack of commitment and follow-through by senior executives, defective project management skills among managers, resistance from middle management, corporate politics, and a lack of training and confusion among frontline employees. All the hallmarks of ineffective communication. Excellent change management showed up as managers and frontline employees all being involved, clarity around responsibilities, continuous and targeted communication, plus understanding and acceptance throughout the organization. The study also found that ROI was only 35% when there was a poor change management program, and ROI was 143% when an excellent change management program was part of the initiative. Clearly, poor change management leads to a workforce drowning in uncertainty and can cost organizations time and resources. This includes organization-wide confusion, ambiguity, and doubt, lack of commitment and ongoing resistance, and gossip. And if you find yourself saying things like, "I hope they understand," it's probably a warning that additional explanation and clarity is needed. So how does an organization that finds their employees drowning in uncertainty change that? Actively and continually communicate across the organization. If leaders are transparent in their decisions in times of uncertainty, employees won't need to speculate or jump to conclusions. Transparency and full disclosure are essential. Seek to clarify roles where you can, but be aware there will be ambiguity and clarity will not be perfect. Set the expectation that there will be some uncertainty and that there may not always be answers. Clearly describe goals and expectations. Make clear what is negotiable and what is non-negotiable. What a person is supposed to accomplish is non-negotiable, set in stone. How they accomplish those things, however, can be negotiable. So be clear on the vision. Next, let's talk about working from assumptions. This is when employees are operating under the illusion that their interpretation of a situation is the same as fact. Instead of acting on facts, people take their own opinions and judgments and form conclusions and then act on those. For instance, a recent client had 4 leadership positions vacate their office. Each leader had a different reason for leaving that was unrelated to the company. The employees, however, assumed that the departure of the leaders indicated that the company was in trouble, causing much anxiety and gossip. Another example. A vendor was bidding for a project with a longtime client. They compiled a complex, beautiful 20-page proposal. Their competitor's proposal was only 5 pages, and yet they were awarded the business. Why? The established vendor thought they knew what the client wanted. The competitor took the time to understand what the client wanted. Working from assumptions was disastrous for the established vendor, who lost a significant amount of business. As you'll see throughout this presentation, it's what people are not saying that becomes open to interpretation and assumption. Assumptions happen a lot in email communication. For example, a 2 to 3 word response might seem curt or dismissive. A lack of response might seem like indifference or even hostility. How a person acts in a meeting can also be taken the wrong way. If someone doesn't give feedback, it can be assumed that they don't like the idea or that they are fully supporting it. Based on decades in this industry, working directly with agencies, organizations, unions, and associations, we found that assumptions are wrong 50 to 80% of the time. This happens on a daily basis. The result? Time and money are wasted worrying, working on the wrong elements, completing work that may need to be redone, and finding solutions to problems that don't exist. Now let's talk about solutions. Train your staff to recognize the difference between fact and opinion, or as we call it, notice versus imagine. Notice encompasses the facts of the situation, and imagine is everything else: thoughts, opinions, evaluations, and conclusions. Ask questions in a quest to seek clarity, not confirmation. Otherwise, you'll hear what you want to hear and miss what's actually going on. The more we ask questions, the more likely we are to find out the real underlying facts and, in turn, make better decisions. Sometimes these questions can be uncomfortable, but you can't avoid difficult conversations. Why don't we ask more questions more often? Because we assume we're right in our assumptions, and this can be toxic to teamwork. Let's talk about the third area of communication breakdown: execution and deployment failures. An organization's reputation, growth, and sustainability are built on its ability to deliver quality services and solutions. When a company fails to do so, the results are disastrous: disappointed customers, cost overruns, unplanned expenses, lost recompetes, and damaged credibility. How does communication play a part in this? Almost always, execution and deployment failures are a result of a lack of honest communication between leadership and staff, or between the company and customer. Any project can run into problems or difficulties, and very often the problems are not brought up to senior management until they become a major issue. Had these issues been brought up in a timely manner, they could have been more easily resolved. In the case of a company and their customer, expectations and responsibilities for a project may be unclear, and this leads to scope creep. Rather than addressing these issues early, the customer is surprised when the project falls short of expectations, or worse, they're surprised by overages which the company then has to absorb. It would make sense that an open sharing of information would resolve the breakdowns, and yet this doesn't happen. Why? In our nearly 2 decades of experience, we found that the number one reason employees do not share information is fear. Fear of retribution, fear they'll get in trouble, or fear that it will damage their career. So here's what to do about stopping execution and deployment failure. Go fishing for honest feedback. Ask employees to rate you on a scale from 1 to 10 on different metrics, and ask how you can get better ratings. Keep in touch with staff and leaders through all steps of a project. And leaders need to understand that fear is the number one issue, so you need to make people feel safe in reporting the truth. It takes more psychological energy to keep something inside than to let something out. People want to tell the truth. Let's talk about organizational misalignment. If you haven't seen this in your organization, you've surely seen it in others. This is when there is unhealthy internal competition within the organization. This creates deep rifts within the workplace and leads to inefficiencies and wasted resources. For example, a functional office, such as accounting or procurement, may think it should police or control certain business practices, so it focuses on what cannot be done rather than supporting the other department's activities. In turn, the business area, such as sales, may see the functional department as an obstruction and try to circumvent it rather than working together. The result? Senseless repetition, lost time, and internal competition. There are ways to begin to solve organizational misalignment. Clearly define your swim lanes, making sure everyone knows what their responsibilities are in their department and what they're not. If leaders don't clearly define organizational swim lanes, people will spend time internally focusing on dealing with conflicts in politics rather than generating growth in revenues. Bring the functional and business areas together to discuss how things can be done as opposed to why they can't be done. Encourage everyone to network outside their immediate group. Have joint staff meetings and build your network to limit inbred thinking. This gives you a better understanding of how other groups function, and knowing this will help groups better collaborate. For example, if you have a team of 10 people and instruct them to meet or network with one new person from a different group, department, or area each month, in just 6 months, your team will have 60 new contacts. Imagine the amount of fresh ideas and increased knowledge that could come from those new relationships. The final problem we'll discuss today is lack of innovation. This happens when employees are not sharing ideas. Ideas are stale, old, or reused, or employees are inhibited from sharing new suggestions. If you hear anyone saying, "We already know what they want," "We've already tried this," "We've always done things this way," that will never work. You just might have a lack of innovation on your hands. How do we solve the lack of innovation problem? Teach employees how to better formulate and package their ideas. When the ideas come to management, they'll be more thought out and thus better accepted. Look outside of your area for ideas. Credit the creator of an idea. If one feels they don't get recognition, the flow of ideas may stop. Publicize the ideas that are being used. Research shows that the number one way to motivate employees is to use their ideas. Create a culture where you are using other people's ideas. Show that ideas will or have been used. There's nothing more frustrating than being asked for ideas and contributing, but never seeing one's contributions amount to anything. You don't have to use every idea, but the question is, are you using any ideas? All 5 of these issues have one thing in common. They result from a lack of open and honest communication. And this doesn't just affect employee morale or the company's ability to grow and be productive. It also is reflected in the company's bottom line. Think of a work-related issue you have with someone, perhaps a boss, a coworker, a direct report, or even a customer. Now ask yourself, how much time do you spend per day thinking about that issue, avoiding the issue, working around the issue, talking about the issue, and so on? If you spend just 1 hour a day, and you probably spend more, that equates to 250 hours a year, or slightly over 1 month of time that would have been otherwise productive. And that's just one issue. Now think about how many hours your team is working with the issue, or even their own issues. Now let's look at the financial implications in terms of replacing employees who have left due to having to deal with these frustrations. Research suggests that the loss of one excellent employee from your company costs 1 to 2 times the average salary and benefits of that employee. So if the average salary is $50,000, then it would cost up to $100,000 to replace that lost employee when you add in recruiting, training, getting up to speed, and lost corporate job knowledge. For a company with 1,000 employees with an average 10% annual rate of turnover, the cost of turnover could be as much as $5 million a year. Remember, this figure is considered conservative and could easily go up to $10 million annually. Of course, it doesn't have to be this way. In organizations that we work with, people want to come to work. Employees stick together and watch each other's back. Contracts are won and business grows. We've given you some tips on how to start enacting change in the communication of your organization. However, this is often a process that can benefit from an outside consulting eye. The Stephen Gaffney Company is a full-service speaking, training, consulting, and coaching company that helps organizations increase teamwork, collaboration, revenue, and profits by teaching open, honest communication. Founder Stephen Gaffney is one of the nation's leading experts on honest interpersonal communication, team performance, leadership, and change management. For nearly 20 years, the Stephen Gaffney Company has worked with Fortune 500 companies, government, military agencies, and nonprofit organizations to increase revenue, drive profit, and better allocate resources and taxpayer dollars. Thousands credit our live seminars, media appearances, audio seminars, coaching, and books with making immediate and lasting changes in both their organizations and personal lives. Why? First of all, we offer an outside perspective. Often the communication issues that are hurting your company are very difficult to identify and address from within the organization. Hiring an outside agency like the Stephen Gaffney Company is not only effective, it's essential. We offer an inside-outside approach. We have served diverse clientele both outside and within your particular industry. This allows us to bring best practices from one industry to another. The inside part of our approach includes extensive time spent inside your company, learning about your culture and organization. Our proprietary process gets us up to speed quickly and effectively. We truly become part of your team. The Stephen Gaffney Company does not offer a cookie-cutter approach. We customize our work based on your specific needs. And we offer a lifetime of support. We stand behind our work because we are confident that our solutions are so effective. But don't take our word for it. Here are just a few things our clients have said about us. After 9 years, still the most practical and powerful course ever taken. Improved team spirit, productivity, and customer service. Valuable follow-up to reinforce what was learned. Powerful strategies that led to best quarter ever. We offer a variety of tailored formats to suit your specific needs, from employee seminar and training to organizational consulting and executive coaching. Contact the Stephen Gaffney Company today, and we'll show you how honest, effective communication can dramatically improve your business.